Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is going to cover the most effective way to bulk for muscle growth. So, we're going to start by going over what we're looking to achieve out of a lean bulking phase, because that really should be the only type of bulk one does. Then, how we set up and adjust our nutrition, how we set up and adjust our training. Then, towards the end, we'll go over some very common bulking mistakes and how you can avoid them to make the most progress possible. So first, what are we looking to get out of a bulk? We are looking to very simply maximize muscle growth while limiting body fat gain. So put on the most amount of muscle possible with the very least amount of body fat alongside. So how exactly do we do this? Well, first, this does require us to start our bulk, or the most ideal way to start a bulk is at a low-ish body fat percentage. Honestly, the leaner you are, the better, because the leaner you are, typically the longer the runway will be. So typically, I like to see someone start their bulk around 9 to 12% body fat to not only be able to at least gain for 20 weeks before having to pull back, but also the leaner you are, the more insulin sensitive you are, the better your nutrient partitioning ratio will be, and you'll be able to clearly see the changes in your physique as you put on muscle tissue. So for those reasons, if you're not already lean, I'd run a quick fat loss phase first before entering your bulk. Now, from a nutrition standpoint, to maximize muscle growth while minimizing fat gain, the main thing we need to worry about is controlling our surplus and ensure we're not gaining more than 0.5% of our body weight per week. So the ideal rate of gain for most individuals is around 0.25 to 0.5% of their body weight per week, and that's on the upper end. Now, there are some caveats to this. I have clients, and even myself, who currently want to stay on the leaner side while building muscle, and I would rather sacrifice some potential muscle gain to stay a little bit leaner. So I'd hang around that 0.25%. I may be sacrificing some potential muscle growth we'd get out of a little bit of a larger surplus. So for myself and for clients who share this goal, even though the optimal rate of gain is 0.25 to 0.5% of their body weight per week, there may be some weeks we don't actually achieve that and are under that 0.25%, even at maintenance, if training performance is still progressing. So are we potentially missing out on some of those gains those weeks? Yeah, probably, potentially, but that's the trade-off that we're very willing to make. So that is something to keep in mind if you're also falling into that camp. Though we're aiming for that 0.25 to 0.5% a week, if you don't hit that every single week and your goal isn't to maximize muscle growth completely, you'd rather stay on the leaner side, it's not a massive deal. Now, if you're someone who wants to put on as much muscle as possible, you're going to want to be in a surplus every single week. So how do we set up our surplus? Well, very basic way to do this that is not 100% accurate, but will give you a good place to start. Simply times your body weight by 15. Then you can take that, start with a 5% surplus to that number. So you'll take that number, multiply it by 5%, then add that amount of calories to each day. I'd give that a go. And if you see your ideal rate of gain, so if you do that for a week, and then you do it for 2 weeks, see the averages of both weeks. Ideally, you're weighing yourself every day, and you see your 0.25 to 0.5% of body weight increase that week, you're great. If you go above, pull your calories down. If you're underneath, add some in. And that is a very basic way to get your bulk underway in the next 2 weeks so you could be off to the races. When it comes to food selection, food sources itself, at least 95% of your diet should be coming from whole foods. If you're an individual who has to eat a lot of calories, like hard gainer, or for whatever reason your metabolism is super fast, I've heard it all before, usually not the case, especially with people with not a huge amount of muscle. But say you're an outlier, say your surplus is for some reason 4,000 calories. You'd be an outlier, but let's just say that's the case. Even then, we do not want to go down the processed food route because we want to keep digestion intact. And we can get a lot of easily digestible carbs from things just adding like a organic fruit juice with like a solid glass with every meal. That's easily 150 grams carbs plus across the day. Then, of course, we have basics that digest super well. White rice, cream of rice, especially if your carbs get up there. Highly recommend cream of rice. Elevate Company does some fairly fantastic tasting ones. Dried fruit, organic cereals can be great. So there are a ton of options to get the calories in, while still consuming whole foods minus the cereal. So that's how we set up our nutrition. Now, when it comes to our training, there are a few things to keep in mind: our volume, our exercise selection, obviously our training split, then how we adjust our training during our bulk to maximize muscle growth. So, before getting into anything, it's important that we are tracking our training. So, you're logging your sets, you're using an app on your phone, notes app, pen and paper, whatever you like, but this is so important. You need to be doing this because we want to know if you are progressing workout to workout. We want to know if adaptations are taking place. Are you able to do more reps week to week? Are you able to slightly increase the weight over time? Is progressive overload occurring? Because this is a very good indicator we are putting on muscle. So, at a baseline, to set things up, I would recommend training each muscle group at least twice per week. Anything less than that, you're sacrificing some gains. 2 times per week, you're going to get at least way more gains. 3 times per week, it kind of tapers off. So, at least 2 times per week. And if you have any priority body parts, if you're looking to bring specific muscle groups up more, I'd look to train those 3 times per week. So, in terms of split, this could be upper lower. If you're newer to training, could be push pull legs, could be push pull legs upper lower is a fantastic split, and there's a ton of variations you could go depending on your specific needs, depending on what you want to bring up, what you might be happy maintaining, and then adjust your volume from there. So I would always recommend, and what I do with my clients is set volume low, so your number of sets per week for a muscle group to begin with. See if we're able to progress, then assess week to week if we can increase volume or if we stay where we're at because we're seeing progressions week to week. Now, volume is very individual dependent. So you'll see these like random 10 to 20 sets per week, but some people it could be 6 sets per week. Some people it could be on that 20 sets per week. So it largely depends on how hard you train, your total recovery capacity as well. So at a baseline, I'd start at around 6 sets, which sounds low per muscle group per week. Now, if you're there, able to progress week on week, either via load or reps, and at the end of your sessions, you're like, yeah, I could have definitely done more, got some more in the tank, then I'd add 1 to 2 sets per muscle group. Or if you want to prioritize certain muscle groups, I'd start by adding into those first. Then again, seeing how progression is crucial. You're logging your lifts, progression's going, then you could go ahead and increase again. Or if you need to scale it back, you scale it back. So that's how you look to increase your volume. First, look at what the logbook is saying. Okay, cool, I'm progressing. Then ask yourself by the end of the workout, could I have done more? Yeah, then add volume. In regards to exercises, this is something, once you start that workout plan, you really don't want to be swapping in exercises out, swapping these new, just every week going in trying a new exercise. And this is because when you start a new exercise, there will be adaptations and progressions taking place. But at the beginning, those will mostly be neurological adaptations. So, like you just learning the skill of the exercise. So, those jumps you're getting in that first week, that second week, those are mostly just the skill, us learning that movement pattern and developing the skill of going through that exercise. But as you say, spend 3-4 weeks doing that exercise, those progressions where you're able to get like 3 reps more one week, 4 reps the next, those will start to slow down, which is a good thing because once we've developed the skill, now the adaptation will be muscle growth. So that's what we're going for. Now, when we're able to do another rep or slightly increase the load, it's very likely that adaptation is muscle being put on our frame as long as you're not switching exercise all the time. So every 3 to 4 weeks, if you switch your split or switch exercises, you'll never really get to the point where we can get consistent muscular adaptations because we just restart the whole neurological side of it and then spend another X amount of weeks to get to the point where, okay, your body's learned this exercise, you've learned this movement pattern, developed that skill. Now it's time to start progressing to build muscle. Right when you reach that point, you're just switching the exercise again and repeating that process. So it's very important that you stick with the same exercise when you start your workout plan and run that for as long as possible. Okay, so now you set your training plan, your exercises, your volume. When do you add in intensifiers? Fun stuff like rest pauses, myo reps, drop sets. I don't really like drop sets personally. They are very hard to track, but I do really like myo reps and rest pauses. Myo reps are fantastic from an efficiency standpoint where you can get, let's say, 3 sets worth of effective reps in one extended set. So really great to save time in your workout, especially really good for isolation work. And then the last part to your training in a bulk that I do want to touch on because it's super important is enjoyment out of your plan and what exercise you connect well with. So, for me, an example, triceps never really connected well with cross-body tricep extensions, but my close grip Smith jam press triceps are fully blown. I feel them through the entire rep range. Pump is ridiculous. So if you know you have exercises you connect really well with, include them. Then also include some exercises you enjoy, because if you enjoy doing it, let's say an exercise isn't 100% optimal, you'll definitely grow more doing it, in my opinion, because you'll be excited to progress it. You'll maybe bring more intensity to it. It'll just make the process more enjoyable. So those are some things to keep in mind, because the process has got to be something you enjoy, especially for a bulk when you're not seeing the changes as fast as a fat loss phase. You got to just stick day in and day out, tick the boxes, progress your lifts, and then over 2-3 months, that's when you're gonna start reaping the rewards in terms of your physique and actually see the progress you've made. Now, there are some bulking mistakes that I've been guilty of making in the past, and some of them are commonly made during bulking phases that I think can really easily be avoided. So let's get into those. First, quite a bad mistake I've made, and that's taking the bulk way too far. So this looks like above maybe 16-17% body fat, which is the highest I'd ever push someone today. And even that's pushing it. I like to stop around that 15%, but back in the day, I mean, I went up to probably 25% body fat. I mean, I was straight up obese, gave myself stretch marks, which kind of faded, not really. Then I had to spend 6 months plus dieting that off. So that is mistake number one. Even though strength was high, there's absolutely no reason to get fat during your bulk, okay? The whole term dirty bulking, not a thing, not optimal, doesn't give you any more benefit than staying lean and progressively increasing your caloric intake when body weight stalls, staying in that rate of gain. So, mistake number two, which I've also made, I mean, I've made all these mistakes to be fair. So, this one, anyways, combining meals. So, when you get to higher food intakes, becoming structured is much more important, because say you miss a meal, then all the meals get pushed back in the evening. And I would actually stay up later to get all my meals in. Looking back, it's like, what are you doing, man? You're literally you're sacrificing your number one recovery tool, which is sleep, to get my meals in. Crazy. Then when I got that meal in, the quality of my sleep would be horrible, because I ate way too close for bed. All this food would be sitting in my stomach. My heart rate's up, and just not an ideal situation. So if you're finding yourself in those situations, as you gradually increase calories to sustain that small surplus, for some people, very few, but for some people, there will come a point where missing a meal, while it is not the end of the world, it's not ideal. So you have to try and get in a routine, eating your meals roughly around the same times each day. Pick a meal amount of meals that you can stick to, say 4 or 5. Don't go to 5 if you can't do 5. And get in a routine where you get up, you get your meals in right away. You don't let those meals push back, because this will creep up on you to where those last 2 meals are getting really close, or just end up being combined, and it's not going to be optimal for sleep. We want to eat our last meal at least 2 hours before we're going to bed. So we want all those benefits for sleep recovery, performance. Also, we see large meals impact insulin sensitivity as well. So if you want to stay insulin sensitive and you want to keep good health metrics in a good spot, have your calories spread throughout the day between, like I said, 4 to 5 meals. Ideally, 2.5-3 hours in between your meals to allow for digestion. And obviously, don't make the mistake I made, thinking I had to stay up to get my meals in, even if they got pushed back, and try to make that a rare occurrence. Life happens, obviously, but ideally, we want to mitigate that, which is why routine is so important. On to the next mistake, which is one I see quite often: cheat meals. When I first started, I would give myself a cheat meal weekly, every Sunday, which not only does this promote a poor relationship with food, but I would also get so bloated and throw off my digestion so badly, because I would just essentially binge and consume an ungodly amount of processed foods. There's this place called Bistro Wings near me, and I would get this massive box of wings, and then fries, of course. And then if you're going the meal, you have to get the dessert too. So that not only wrecked my digestion system, threw off that night's sleep, but threw off my whole surplus for the week as well, and put me way above that 5 to 10% surplus we're looking for. So instead of a cheat meal, what I do now is I have a weekly off-plan meal, weekly free meal. I'm not calling it a cheat meal, and I do this during my bulking phases. I'm still going out, but I'm not having like garbage. I don't even crave garbage anymore, just because I learned kind of what the food does to you. So I just go out and I have clean food. It's not going to be like fast food or bar type food. It's going to just be like something barbecue, steak, fish, something clean. All I do is replace one of my meals that day with it, and it will be around the same amount of calories. I don't track it, but that is the way to go. Even if it's above, not that huge deal if you're eating clean and you're not stuffing your face with a bunch of garbage. And the final mistake for you guys who really want to be optimal, make sure you're getting the most out of your bulking phase, has to do more with fluid and electrolytes, but more specifically, its impact on scale weight as well as your performance. So, in my opinion, not tracking your fluid and electrolyte intake is a mistake. Now, you don't have to track this forever. You do want to set clear targets and hit them for a good amount of period of time, though. So, to then be able to and hit it really without tracking it and without thinking about it, it kind of becomes automatic. Kind of how like the thing about whole intuitive eating, like you almost got to earn the right to get there via tracking your food for a period of time. So you can look at a piece of chicken, you can actually pretty accurately judge, okay, that looks like about 30 grams of protein. So I've spoken on the hydration status, the impact of hydration on performance in the past. I've done a whole podcast at length on it, so I won't touch on it too much, but all you need to know is that if you're dehydrated, your performance will suffer. Not only physical performance, that'll suffer pretty massively, mental performance as well, which may be very important for some of you too. Now, when it comes to the data and assessment side of things, when you're looking at your rate of gain, you're looking at your weekly weight, the average, you're looking at daily trends. This is why I love using Chronometer, because it will tell you your sodium intake. Because, for example, if you have high sodium one day, your weight will be higher the following morning, and it's not indicative of muscle growth or body fat gain. So this is when the mistake can be made, like, oh no, I'm up 2 pounds, I need to pull my food down. Like, no, yesterday did you just eat more sodium than normal? Because if so, that's just water retention. So that was something I definitely wish I knew, especially when I was just completely not aware of my electrolyte intake. Weight would be going like this, and I'd be like, what is going on? Well, really, it was down to electrolytes. So that is a wrap on today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed and can get massive now while staying lean. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them below. And if you want a free 30 days of transformation advice that will fast track your transformation, click the first link in the description. Peace.